for now. One more drum roll, please. Congratulations. I'm so proud of you.
Hey everybody, Quantum here, and in this video I'm going to cover yet another 4-0 lobby tournament sweep on, this time, the Sunday morning, July 27th. If you watched my previous video, you know we also 4-0'd the day before, the Saturday, July 26th lobby tournament on a different account with budget Portalcraft puppets. And as you can see here, you know, 4-0 win, obviously from the opening screen. We're going to take a look at these matches using Runecraft, which is not a deck I play too often, but it's a very powerful deck, up there with Swordcraft in my opinion as the best deck for the format. We'll take a look at these matches, then we'll jump into the deck list. But yeah, Runecraft, Dragoncraft, Havencraft, Abysscraft in the finals. Let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so the mirror match for game 1, and we are going first. Runecraft is one of those decks where I actually don't mind going first because you have some pretty strong turn 1 plays where you don't need the play point. We just need to find it. Also, like the addition of, and I guess we'll talk about this in the deck profile, but the addition of the Earthrite package, like this Melvie Adoring Witch as a 2-cost 2/2 that gives you a Witch's New Brew is absolutely insane. It's a card that goes +1 and gets you Earth Sigils. Like, that is just wild. The second ability, you know, gain 2 extra Earth Sigils if there's a Super Evolved follower on the field, doesn't, or an allied follower, Super Evolved, doesn't really come up. So here you can see a difference between my opponents and my deck list here, which again we'll cover at the end of the video. But they're running the Apprentice Astrologer. I did test this card a little bit and I did not like it, so I opted to cut it. And what's funny is there was a big Shadowverse tournament, I think this same weekend or something, and the Runecraft list that all like the pro players were playing, like you could see that it's so optimized, and after some testing you can see like why you may not want to play the Astrologer and why you just want to play the Melvie. Anyways, after some back and forth here, the opponent is on, well, this is why they're playing Astrologer, they're on a much more dedicated Earthrite build of Runecraft. We are on more of the Spellboost variation, just with the inclusion of a couple of Earthrite cards for the simple fact that we want to use Norman here. So the Juno comes in, evolves, gets the crest, which allows them to get the Guardian Golems at the end of every turn, as long as they have the crest for 3 turns, which is very, very strong. We're going to Anangrea though, clear 3 bodies, that's what Anangrea does, and with a 6/4 on the board. Pretty healthy hand, and let's see what the opponent wants to do to answer. Good response in the Edelweiss here, that instantly deals 4 damage to the Anangrea, clearing it out. End of the turn, they get the Guardian Golem again. We're going to be forced, I don't know if forced, but like the best play is probably dropping this William to clear and demanding that they have an answer. Since they're out of Earth Sigils, they're going to need to spend a turn, which is what they do here, generating more Earth Sigils. They're an Earth Sigil deck. They need those in rotation, otherwise their cards just won't come online. And so because of that, they go for the Penelope, which then forces the Super Evo out of them, and I'm feeling really good. You know, I'm up on a Super Evo, they've got kind of an underwhelming board, and I'm coming up to the Kuon turn now because I went first, right? Don't need the extra play point here. Kuon is going to clean up this board and end with a pretty strong end board still for the opponent to deal with, and this is why Spellboost Rune is still considered to be one of the best decks in the format. Like, the Kuon just gives you so much value here. How are they going to clear this? Okay, with their own Kuon, of course. Do we have a clapback option yet? We've got William. We would like to establish the Onions with the rejected Artez, but I don't know if we'll have the opportunity to do that. They're going to get me down to 10 though, they're on 15, so you know they're doing some work here, and they end with the Noble Shikigami, which is the one with Ward, and the Kuon themselves. They leave my Kuon up though, and so now I can push damage, put them to 9, end with a William and a Melvie. And this is why the Spellboost version is so strong. Just like the ability to play William and constantly boost him off the Onions is just crazy. They are going to be able to clean up my board though on the clapback with the Enchanting Perfumer, and the Edelweiss again just getting great value. Now we're finally going to drop the rejected Artez and grab the 2 Onions, clean up the opponent's board just a little bit, and I think we're going to be forced to, yeah, Stormy Blast, just because we don't want to risk taking any extra damage. The opponent is going to be on turn 10, so they could do an enhanced Kuon drop, so I do have to heal up in anticipation of like I forget what oh wait, is the Noble Shikigami the combined one and the Celestial one is the one with War? I don't know. But yeah, the one that goes 10-10, they're probably not on the demonic call, so they can't do the 13 boost, but either way I still heal up to 14. They're going to follow through with Norman on the Evo. They're not out of Evo points, we still have a super Evo, so we're feeling pretty good. And Greya coming down here once again, doing a cleanup, which is really, really strong. Going to be able to absolutely... Well, I guess we don't even need to waste the Evo point because we have the demonic calls here to clean up the Norman. But yeah, the Ant Summoning cleans up the Guardian Golems, and now they have no resources left. Well, they have Earth Sigils, but they have no crests. They have no Evos left, so this Juno can't evolve, get more Guardian Golems. It can still hit for 10, right, when it's summoned. We top deck the Cactus, though, and right here it's just like GG since we have double Dimension Climb. The opponent on 13, right, they've got 4 cards left in their hand. We just draw, yeah, the game here because Super Evo on Silent Rider means hit for 13, and just like that, we take game 1 of the lobby tournament in the Runecraft mirror match. Even though the opponent was on more of an Earthrite build, I do like that build more. It's fun. It's more fun to play in my opinion, but you can see why the Spellboost version is still considered the better one. Alright, in round number 2, I was surprised to see that the only Dragoncraft player was paired against me, but that's okay. Dragoncraft can kind of be hit or miss. I think it's still a decent deck, but it's pretty explosive if it gets the right curve. Again, depending on if it's aggro or ramp, it can definitely run away with the game. Especially with the new Finny card, like once they get that going, it can be very hard to stop if they're able to draw through their deck after that. And of course they ramp to it early, but let's see how this one goes. Again, going first here, we get the Witch's New Brew up, which is nice. We're going to see the opponent pass on their turn 1, not opting to use their play point. We don't have a turn 2 drop, which is unfortunate, so we're just going to boost the Earth Sigil here. They're going to go ahead on 2, use their play point to develop the Grimnir. This is good insurance for later on in the game with the crest for the Super Evos. They reveal that, yeah, they're probably on the ramp version because, yeah, they're playing Apollo. No value in this matchup, or very little option for value, so deploying it here is totally fine. We do get the Melvy up, and we're going to opt to stave off some damage by using the Stormy Blast. I generally find that Stormy Blast in the early part of the game is generally where you want to use it, simply because it helps stave off that early game pressure. Then in the mid-late game, you can do the Greya and Kuans to protect. The Marion comes in, they're going to evolve it, so they waste an Evo point to clear my 2-2, which I think is a misplay. But they do get the boost on the Apollo, which pushes damage, puts me down to 15. So I'm like, okay, they're clearly trying to be very aggressive here. Thankfully, on 5 for me, Anne and Greya will come in, clean up this board, and we end with a 6-6. And the Ant Summoning, of course. The Apollo here, again, very weak in this scenario. They're going to evolve it, and yeah, crashing in only gets me down to 1. So really, really bad trade on their end. We're gonna opt to heal up though, hit for 6, develop another Melvy, and this is like this sequence, this turn by the opponent and then pass back to me here. This is basically what won me the game. I just gained so much tempo here. There's almost nothing the opponent can do. They burn one of their Super Evos for the Forte, and you know the Earthlight, the Sage Light Teaching, sorry, really just comes in so clutch with the healing in certain matchups. The Forte, you know, I played a lot of Dragoncraft with Forte. I love her as a card. She's very, very strong and can come out of nowhere and deal a ton of damage. But, you know, we're going to be able to mitigate a lot of what they want to do. Card that you don't really see too often in Zahar comes in with the Vast Wing. Very tough to deal with, but we do have William and Stormy Blast in the deck that we could potentially use. So I'm just going to go ahead, use the Shikigami to boost up my William, use the Evo on the Anne and Greya since it can attack face here. Bring the Vast Wing down to 5 so it's within the William range, and then hit for 6 with the Anne and Greya. They're going to clear the board with the Calamity, develop a Phildao. They're out of Evo points though, and you know, despite having 3 Dimension Climbs in my hand, I'm feeling pretty good. Down comes the Kuon, and then the Super Evo on it since I have 2 Super Evos, so there's nothing left, and we're also ahead on life here. Like, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion. Gonna go ahead and deal a total of 5 damage with the Celestial. Yeah, it's not the Noble. The Noble is the combined one. The Celestial and the Kuon taking out the Phildao. Yeah, they're just gonna... Yeah, there's nothing they can do here. They're grasping. Yeah. Yeah, it's just a scoop. I don't think there's anything they can do in that situation to come back. The swing of the game was when they Apollo and Evo. I don't know if they did their math wrong or if that was their only play, but that's the play that, in my opinion, lost them that game. All right, for round number 3, we actually faced Havencraft. So pretty diverse pool in this lobby. I think there were 2 to 3 Havencraft players. So this was the only one that was undefeated, I guess, going into round 3. So I hear this is a good matchup for Runecraft. I don't think I've really ever played this matchup. Again, I don't play on this account too much, and I don't play Runecraft all that much. But from what I can tell, this card, the William, is what's really going to help you push through all of the warded characters that they develop, especially after they drop the Ether and get the 3 wards out for free. As long as the William hits like 7, 8, 9 spell boost, which shouldn't be too hard, especially with the Onion engine here, you're totally fine. So starting off, we do go second. The opponent starts off pretty aggressive with the Angelic Maid and the Cleric of Crushing to put some pressure on by attacking directly. We trade out our Melvi here, and now we're a little bit behind it, but we're playing for that turn 5 Anangrea, which will stabilize our board. We're down to 16, but we're going to be able to clean things up, like I mentioned, with that Anangrea. And what's pretty nice here is the Anangrea will not even need to challenge, because off the Evo here, we'll be able to deal the 3 damage to the Grimnir and have the An summoning for the opponent's turn, and our Anangrea fully stocked with this as a 6/6. So the opponent is going to need to answer that. They drop yet another Grimnir, and then they evolve it, which is normally not a good decision here, but because they have the Divine Guard, they're hoping for the 50-50 for it to hit for the 6 damage on the Anangrea. They don't hit it, and they hit the An Summoning, so unlucky for them, but that's the risk you take with a 50-50. Now we're going to develop the Onion engine here and hit for 6, so we're in a really good spot. On turn 6, the opponent's going to drop their Wilbert, do the Evo, and clear out their rejected RTs most likely, which is what they do. We still got both the Onions on the board though, so we can attack directly with them or we can challenge. It looks like I'm going to opt to challenge. You know, the Wilbert's going to trigger, develop the 2 warded characters. We're going to use the Sage Light to wipe the board after that though, so we can attack directly, putting them down to 7. And our hand is like fully stocked. Down comes the Ether. This was interesting. I remember this. Let me pause for a second. I remember this going like, I was like, okay, they have the 2 warded characters from the Wilbert. Do I drop the William here? Because again, I'm unexperienced in this matchup. But then I'm like thinking, I'm like, no, I want to save this for more impact. I don't need to clear 2 2/4 bodies. Like, I'll use the Sage Light. Yes, it gets rid of my Earth Sigils, which now means my Norman is not online. I mean, I could get more back with the Sage Light, but because my Earthrite package in this deck is very, very small, it's basically just the Melvi and Witch's New Brew. And I guess you can say technically Sage Light. Like, if once I lose the Earth Sigils, it's very hard for me to get them back unless I see another iteration of that card, which I guess you can say is not too far-fetched. We got 26 cards left in the deck, but here it really pays off that I did not use the William in that scenario, and I saved it here for exactly what I was saying in the beginning. So yeah, they're going to go ahead and clean up my board. That's fine because the Grimnir is going to take out the Onion. But now on the clapback, we're going to Spell Boost with the Onion, drop the William, clear the board, and then pass back to the opponent. And just like that, we out a huge play. Down comes yet another Ether. We have another William, but it's not Spell Boosted up yet. But we're going to be on the Kuon next turn to clean things up a little bit. The opponent's already on 7. They've used up every single Evo point that they have, and we still have both of our Super Evos. Plus, being over 7 means that we can also use the Kuon in combination with either the Looking Smart or the Stormy Blast, which is already spell boosted up to 12. There you can see we use it on the Ether, and we're going to be able to do some good damage control here. Maybe not clear this board out completely, but do enough to put us in a really good position, especially since the opponent is not on any Evo points. We still have 14 health. We've got a pretty sizable board here with the Kuon follow through, and it's looking pretty strong for us here. So they're left with just the Bell Ringer. Down comes the Gene to clear the board. That's fine. They get boosted from that. The Bell Ringer is going to hit for 3, which is crazy, but that's fine. Down comes, okay, the Foresight into the Ruler. We do have a Dimension Climate ready to go. We drop William to clear the board because at this point I'm like, yeah, next turn it's Ruler into Dimension Climb. The opponent doesn't have a strong follow-through play, like no board wipe, no Unholy Vessel, Amulet Clear, no second Gene. Down comes the Odin to clear my character, not even attack me directly. And now I'm going to drop the Cactus and do the Dimension Climb. And at this point, yeah, Dimension Climb plus Cactus still winning games out here in the set 2 metagame. We draw into the Silent Rider, we drop it, Super Evo for no reason, just in case I had a challenge or something, I don't know. And then just attack for game. And just like that, we are 3-0 going into the finals. Taking out Ward Haven with, I would say, relative ease. You can see why this is a good matchup for Runecraft. Alright, and now our final matchup is against Abysscraft. Now, I have played some amount of the Aggro Abysscraft matchup on my Portal deck, so I know kind of what the deck wants to do, and I know how explosive it can be, but I don't have experience with this matchup as a Runecraft player. So using what I know from watching Nobu's stream, who is I think the second rated player in all of Shadowverse Worlds Beyond, he plays the Abysscraft aggro, and he plays it because it's the fastest deck, right? Like it's the easiest deck to just farm points with. I've seen some of the lines he goes for, and I know how explosive the deck can be. Plus, like I said, I have some experience playing against it. So in the finals here, obviously this opponent is going to know what they're doing. We go first, which can be good, can be bad. Here, the opponent uses their play point right away to develop the barrel, so they're going to hit me for 3, but they also take 3 damage themselves. On the actual turn 2, they're going to develop 2 winged bats. But now, because we've spell boosted, we've set up ourselves for the Stormy Blast to take out the barrel, and then we're going to be able to use our Miss Miranda and a second Stormy Blast to clean up the rest of the board. If this Miss Miranda lives for another 2 turns, the Evo dealing 3 damage can also be pretty meaningful, but we also have Anne and Greya, which you'll see me do some pretty interesting stuff with this card in order to help mitigate the damage. Okay, so we take out the warded character, leave them with the 1/1 Cultivator, which is fine. We go to 16. They're going to aggressively put out the Excella, which to me seems like a misplay, but they do have their Evo points, so they hit for 4, get me down to 12. Again, these decks, they just go all out. They know what they're doing in terms of their damage. They just need to get you to a certain point, then they can close out the game pretty easily. We're going to opt on 5 not to drop the Anne and Greya, but instead develop the Onion Engine because it can clear out more threats. And then this is exactly what I was expecting. On the 5, clap back the Aragave, clearing out my board. This gives me more value for my Anne and Greya because when the Anne and Greya comes in, I'm going to be able to I'm going to be able to actually trade the Anne and Greya into the Aragave and keep the warded unit for the opponent's turn. This is how valuable this is in the matchup. And again, this is very limited experience speaking through here. Not trading out the Anne summoning because I know I need protection with the ward. The opponent drops the second Aragave, but they aren't able to develop more aggression with like storm characters against me. Down comes the Super Evo on it, puts me to 6. And, I haven't seen any of my healing here, but the Anne and Greyas putting in the work with the Anne summoning here. So Kuon comes in because, again, it gives me the warded character in the Celestial Shikigami. We're going to go ahead and Super Evo, giving the Celestial the Storm, attack directly, pass back to the opponent, putting them on. You need to get through yet another warded character, and we have the Anne and Greya for more Anne summoning protection. Okay, down comes a number of threats here. They have to use their Super Evo on the Apollo to clear the Shikigami through challenging, and then the Excella can hit me directly, putting me down to 2. The Ghost puts me down to 1. They don't have enough to go for game. You can see how crazy this deck is and how explosive it can be, but now we have game simply because, the opponent just, again, they're just all aggro. Either they win fast or they lose fast, and just like that, I'm just showing them that I had the other ward character on standby, ready to go. But very close match. We did get down to 1 HP, but putting up those warded characters when it counted really made a difference. And just like that, we were able to take our weekend tournament. So the list that we used for this tournament, I called it Spellboost Dirt. It's pretty straightforward. It's primarily a Spellboost deck. And you can see here, still on the Foresight, still on the Stormy Blast. I did cut this and tried the deck without it, but I think, the Upstart Goblin in Yu-Gi-Oh terms is just really valuable in this kind of deck. Just one to sift through reduce your deck size, thin out your deck some more, see the cards you want to see. It only costs 1. It's spell boost. It does a lot for the deck, because you do really need to draw through your deck to find your Cactus towards the end of the game, to find your big impact cards like Anangrea, that kind of stuff. So for those reasons, I went back to the Foresight. I ended up cutting Witch's New Brew down to 2 instead of the 3, simply because this card, while it is great, it's an amulet, it's not a spell. And honestly, like, aside from using the Earth Sigils for Norman, I mean, I know in that lobby tournament run I did use it with Sage Light, which I would say is kind of conditional. It's really there for like Swordcraft decks and whatnot if you're gonna nuke the field for 4. But you really don't want Earth Sigils on the board because it kind of clogs things up, which makes it awkward for your Kuon, especially with the Onion engine, right? You're getting an Onion every turn. You got to get that off the board so that you have the 4 open spots with the Earthrites or Earth Sigils in order to play your Kuon and get the full 4 characters on board. So it's a little bit of board management to keep aware of. The Melvy, though, is like an insanely powerful card, simply because a 2-cost 2/2 body that gets you a redraw 1 with a Witch's Brew is absolutely insane. So not only does it get your Earthrite engine back online, or online in the first place, but it's also a cantrip for 1 when you play the Witch's New Brew. So like, this card is just crazy good. I'm surprised it's just a bronze, but yeah, this is the main card that you want. It's the body on the board. It gets you the cantrip. It gets you the Earth Sigil. Like, it's just, this is the card you want to see. Miss Miranda is still pretty good. Again, spell boost, and then in a pinch, you can use the Evo ability to deal 3 and also spell boost again, which is really nice. Everything else in the deck is pretty self-explanatory, right? Previous to what it was, similar to what it was in the previous set. I did see William get cut down to 2 in some lists. I tried it with 2, but as you saw in that run, the card is just way too valuable. This card is insane. It's a non-Evo board clear, and those are very hard to come by right now in the game. So for now, William is just absolutely crazy. Doesn't really come up, but if you do Evo it, you do spell boost twice. But your Evo points are actually really valuable now in Runecraft, in my opinion, simply because you always want to use them. At least 1 on the Burgent here, and potentially 1 on the Norman. Although again, depending on the scenario, you will likely end up using it on the Anangrea and on the Burgent, and you'll use a Super Evo if you need to on Norman. Thankfully, you don't always need to double up on the Fanfare ability here. Like, just playing the Norman for its 1 iteration of getting one of these effects is nice. Usually, it's going to be summon the Guardian Golem and give it barrier. Sometimes it's restore 4 defense. Very rarely is it going to be draw 3 cards, but Norman and the Burgent here are definitely the new additions that you want to be including in the deck, along with the Melvy, obviously. But this card is crazy. This card does so much for the spell boost deck. I saw this card and I was like, this is insane, because you spell boost guaranteed every turn. Plus you have Anangrea spell boosting you for 3. Like, you don't even need any other spell boosts really. Like, between this engine and Anangrea, you'll get everything to like the spell boost count that you need to, as you can see from that run. By the time you're ready to deploy the Dimension Climb, like, this engine is online several turns before, and then plus you're playing Anangreas and Kuons with the Shikagamis. Like, you just have enough gas for spell boosting. Like, it's why the deck is pretty optimized at this point with this card. I've even seen this. I saw this at 1 to begin with. I've always played 2. Then I saw it at 2. And now I see it at 3. I think 3 is probably too much because, while it's still okay in isolation, you really only want to use this on the Evo, and then you don't really want to play it other than that. Like, yes, you could play it, a second and third copies later, because you still summon 2 onions, which still spell boost and can clear a character, but it's really underwhelming later on. So, seeing the second copy, you'll rarely ever play it out because there's just better value things to play. But you definitely want to see at least 1 of this card. And again, with how much you redraw through this deck, the homework times, the Foresights, the Witch's New Brew, the Melvy getting you the Witch's New Brew, etc., you should see it. Notice that you did cut the Seraphic Tidings, which is just, the non-spell boost version of Homework Time, right? Draw 2 cards. You've cut a few other things. But yeah, this deck, as usual with every expansion, I think you can expect this. You're going to just end up adding more and more legendaries to these decks until they're just pretty much all legendaries, or all at least on the top end. But yeah, it is a bit of an expensive deck. I mean, this is the only deck I have on this account. This is a free-to-play account. But, the Anangreas, the Norman. I think you can get away with 2 of this. But, it is a very impactful card. you definitely need 3 Kuon. It's still the best legendary in the deck in my opinion. Well, I shouldn't say that. Anangray is probably the best, but Kuon is your finisher a lot of the time. Or you're the card that helps you solidify the game state later on. Anangray is the most important one because it prevents you from losing the game before you can get set up. And for that reason, it's probably the best legendary in set 1 in my opinion. But Kuon is definitely really, really strong still. Like the fact that this deck has Anangray and Kuon in its class is what makes it top tier, right? And then of course Dimension Climb. This is the OTK basically. You get this off, you usually just win the game. As you saw, right, with I think 2 out of the 4 matches I rulered into Dimension Climb, and that's just usually GG from there. So yeah, Spellboost Dirt is what I called it. Still doing what it wants to do, still very effective, and taking down a weekend tournament in the hands of someone who, in my opinion, I'm very inexperienced, but I was able to win regardless. So just shows you the power of the deck, carrying noob players like myself. So if I can do it, you can do it too. Not that I want to advocate for more Runecraft players out there, because yeah, this deck I can imagine well, I know because I played against it. Can be frustrating to play against, but its weakness is, in my opinion, being aggroed out. You saw how close that Abyss player came to finishing me off. And I play puppets against this deck a lot, but a lot of it is early aggression with the 2-drop puppet cards that you play in that deck, and you're able to finish off the game with your Orchist. So again, if you know how to play against certain meta decks, right, you know to save your Sage Lights and your Normans for the healing and or the Guardian Golems when needed. But this deck is still prone to bricking, right? You've seen multiple matches where you have like 3 Dimension Climbs in your hand. You just can't do anything, or you don't see any Dimension Climbs, right? Until later on in the game when it's useless. You're not going to get to it. So, the deck is not invincible, but it's still a very strong deck. Again, for the simple fact that Anangray and Kuon are so powerful. That's going to wrap it up for this video though, guys. Let me know what you think if you made it this far. Thank you again for watching. Quantum is out.